Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got a story that proves even the sweetest situations can hide a surprising mystery. It's all about a puzzle that unfolded right in the middle of a school day. A case I like to call the mystery of the classroom cupcakes. It was a special day at Northwood Elementary. Mrs. Parker, the kindest teacher you could ever meet, was celebrating her birthday. To mark the occasion, she had brought in 24 of the most delicious-looking cupcakes. They were a sight to behold. Vanilla sponge, topped with swirls of bright pink frosting and a rainbow of sprinkles. She placed them carefully on the big table in the teacher's lounge, ready for an afternoon celebration with her colleagues. The whole school was buzzing with excitement, and the sweet scent of vanilla and sugar seemed to fill every hallway. Everyone knew about the cupcakes, and everyone was looking forward to seeing Mrs. Parker's happy face. But when Mrs. Parker went to retrieve her birthday treats after lunch, her smile faded. She gasped. The cupcakes were gone. Not a single one was left. The platter was empty, wiped clean. Panic started to bubble up. Who would take a teacher's birthday cupcakes? It seemed like the meanest prank in the world. The news spread like wildfire. Teachers whispered in the hallways, and students peeked into the lounge, trying to catch a glimpse of the crime scene. The festive atmosphere had vanished, replaced by a cloud of confusion and disappointment. Mrs. Parker was heartbroken. It wasn't just about the cupcakes. It was the thought that someone in her beloved school would do something so unkind. But not all hope was lost. In Mrs. Parker's very own class sat a young, aspiring detective named Ruby. Ruby wasn't just any student. She had a knack for noticing things others missed. She had a magnifying glass she kept in her pencil case, and a small notebook she called her case file. For Ruby, a missing pencil was a case. A lost library book was a major investigation. So, when she heard about the vanishing cupcakes, her eyes lit up. This wasn't just a prank. This was her biggest case yet. "Don't worry, Mrs. Parker," she announced with a determined voice. "Detective Ruby is on the case." She pulled out her notebook, drew a quick sketch of a cupcake with a question mark over it, and set off to find the truth. Her first stop was the scene of the crime, the teacher's lounge. The room was now officially off limits, but Mrs. Parker gave Ruby special permission to investigate. Ruby put on her most serious detective face and began her inspection. The room seemed normal at first glance, but Ruby knew the clues were there, hiding in plain sight. She started with the door. As she examined the brass doorknob, she saw it a tiny, almost invisible smudge of bright pink. She leaned in closer. It was frosting. The culprit had been careless. They'd left a sticky fingerprint, a key piece of evidence. Ruby carefully documented the finding in her notebook. "Clue number 1, she whispered to herself. "Pink frosting on the doorknob. The thief has sticky fingers." Next, she moved inside, scanning the floor like a hawk. Her eyes darted from corner to corner. Under the big oak table where the cupcakes had been, she found nothing. But then she checked a less obvious spot. The art table in the corner, where teachers often prepared craft supplies. And there, scattered beneath the table, was a treasure trove of evidence. A small pile of rainbow-colored sprinkles and a few tiny, telltale crumbs. The crumbs were too small to be from a sandwich. They had the light, airy texture of cake. The culprit didn't just take the cupcakes. They had eaten at least one of them, and they had done it right here, away from the main table. Ruby carefully collected a crumb for analysis, placing it in a small evidence bag which was really just a clean plastic sandwich bag from her lunchbox. The final piece of the puzzle was the most revealing. Tucked beside the leg of the art table was a crumpled paper napkin. It was one of the festive birthday napkins Mrs. Parker had brought in. But this one wasn't just crumpled. It had been drawn on. In the corner, doodled in blue pen, was a cluster of little 5-pointed stars. They weren't perfect, but they were distinctive. One star was always a little bigger than the others, and they were always drawn in a tight group. Ruby's heart skipped a beat. She recognized that doodle instantly. She had seen it 100 times before, scribbled in the margins of worksheets, on the back of homework assignments, and even on the class whiteboard. Only one person drew stars like that. Her classmate, Owen. Owen. Ruby couldn't believe it. Owen was quiet and a little shy, but he was always nice. He was the kid who would help you pick up your crayons if you dropped them and always said, "Please and thank you." Could he really be a cupcake thief? The evidence was pointing straight at him. The frosting on the doorknob, the crumbs under the art table where he often sat to draw, and now, the undeniable proof of his signature star doodles on the napkin. Ruby felt a pit in her stomach. Exposing a friend was the hardest part of being a detective. But the truth was the truth. With a heavy heart, she closed her notebook and went to find him. She found Owen in the library, sitting by himself, looking unusually nervous. He was sketching in his notebook, but not as usual rockets or aliens. He was drawing hamsters. Ruby took a deep breath and approached him. "Owen," she said softly, trying not to sound accusatory. "I need to ask you something about Mrs. Parker's cupcakes." Owen jumped, startled. His eyes grew wide with panic. "I didn't eat them. I swear," he blurted out, his voice trembling. "I was just trying to save them." "Save them?" Ruby was confused. "Save them from what?" Ask it." Owen looked around, then leaned in and whispered. "From Hammy." Escape. Hammy was the class hamster, a furry little escape artist who was famous for getting out of his cage. Suddenly, everything clicked into place for Ruby. Hammy loved exploring. If he had gotten loose in the teacher's lounge, he would have gone straight for the sweetest-smelling things in the room, the cupcakes. Owen explained what had happened. He had gone into the lounge to get a book he'd left behind and saw Hammy's cage was empty. He spotted the hamster scurrying towards the cupcake table. Panicking, Owen knew he had to act fast. He grabbed the platters, but in his haste, he got a bit of frosting on his hand, which he then transferred to the doorknob as he rushed out. So, where were the cupcakes now? Owen led Ruby to the school's science closet. It was a small, windowless room filled with microscopes and old textbooks. And there, sitting safely on a high shelf, were all 24 of Mrs. Parker's cupcakes, completely untouched. Owen explained he'd hidden them there to keep them safe from the furry fugitive. He had eaten one, he admitted to that part, grabbing it in his hurry and eating it nervously under the art table while he planned his next move. That explained the crumbs and the doodled napkin. He was so worried about getting in trouble for moving the cupcakes without permission that he didn't know who to tell. Ruby smiled. Her friend wasn't a thief. He was a hero. A cupcake-saving, hamster-wrangling hero. They quickly formulated a plan. Together, they returned the cupcakes to the now hamster-free teacher's lounge. Then, they presented their findings to Mrs. Parker, explaining the entire adventure from start to finish. Mrs. Parker wasn't mad at all. In fact, she was incredibly touched by Owen's quick thinking and his efforts to protect her birthday treats. She gave him a big hug and thanked him for his help. The afternoon celebration went on as planned, but it was even more special now. As the teachers enjoyed the delicious cupcakes, Mrs. Parker got a double birthday surprise. Her wonderful cakes, and the news that she also had a furry adventurer on the loose. The great hamster hunt began, adding another layer of fun to her special day. And so, the mystery of the classroom cupcakes was solved. Detective Ruby closed the case in her notebook, marking it solved in big, bold letters. It was a reminder that things aren't always what they seem, and sometimes, the person who looks guilty is actually the hero of the story. It just takes a good detective to figure it out. What do you guys think? A pretty clever solution, right? Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a funny mystery happen at your school or work. It's amazing what happens when you look a little closer. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed our little detective story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next adventure. Until then, stay curious.